All businesses are different. What is useful to the customer?
And trying to figure out what's meaningful to them can be a challenge.
Welcome to the Hashtime Show, your weekly source for cyber news and info. This is episode number 5. On today's show, Dave, Chris, and Jeff discuss their biggest professional challenges and cloning a top security analyst. Check us out online at hashtimeshow.com. And now, on to the show.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Hashtime Show. This is episode number 5. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Vincent, and with me once again, I have Jeff Marshall and Dave Norland. And before we get started today, guys, we've had some questions here at the office and at home about why we named the show the Hashtime Show. Some people are confused. Dave, you want to fill us in?
So it's a pun off the hash reference. When a file is hashed, it has a more or less unique identifier. That's where it comes from.
Correct.
That was very generic.
Correct answer. Well, and also the Hashtime Show, we want to take a little break from the action here in the fast-paced world of cybersecurity to discuss what's going on. So it's got 2 meanings. Maybe more than 2. I don't know. You tell us, audience.
Oh, Chris, I'm getting a little uncomfortable with this.
All right. Let's jump into segment 1, guys. We're going to bring back after our fun time last week, and we're going to get back to getting to know you. And I want to ask you guys, because I've only known you guys a short period of time. I know you guys are lifelong friends, and you guys were born in the same hospital and everything. So I want to, just kidding, they weren't born in the same hospital.
I like that thought, though.
If you guys were, it'd be sweet. But I don't.
Considering our age gap, that would be a little weird.
That wouldn't make
It's a little
sense.
weird, a little plausible. I just saw Avengers Endgame. I know that anything's possible.
Hey, no spoilers, man. No spoilers.
Okay.
I haven't seen it yet. So, Jeff and Dave, I wanted to get to know you guys a little bit better, and I wanted the audience to get to know you guys because you guys are our subject matter experts here on the show. So, Jeff, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to give you semi-rapid fire 10 questions, and please don't answer each question.
Yes, no, 42.
Please don't answer. Please don't do that.
They're not kind of weak.
And so, Jeff, I'll start with you. Are you ready?
No, but go ahead.
Okay.
Was that the first question?
No, it's not. Your favorite subject in high school?
Did she? I don't know.
I'll accept that answer.
Good answer.
Mac or PC?
Mac.
Best video game of all time?
Ooh. Duke Nukem 3D.
3D gun, I like it. What is your dream car?
Oh, I'm an old school car kind of guy, so there's it's kind of a combination of things. I would say either always wanted an Aston Martin, but also from an old school perspective, I love old Corvettes and cars like that.
It's supposed to be rapid fire, but okay, we'll take whatever that was as an answer.
Let's just redo that.
on the same one. No, it's cool. Aston Martin. So actually, in the same vein, Ford or Chevy?
Chevy.
Chevy. Okay. What is your spirit animal?
It's a good question. I'm just gonna pick something that sounds mean just because. So I'm gonna have to say like a rhino. I don't know. That's the weirdest question I've heard all day.
Location of your future vacation home?
Oh, definitely on a beach somewhere.
On a beach somewhere. Okay. Chrome or Firefox?
Chrome.
Summer or winter?
Winter.
God, how many of these we got?
Last one. MDR or MSSP?
That's too salesy.
Wait for yours, Dave. All right.
Are they different or are they the same?
They're similar.
Similar.
I think we should shout our answers at the same time.
I don't get the benefit of having the same questions.
No, I get to mix it up a little bit for you. I know.
Do it.
All right, Dave. Favorite subject in high school?
It's just a different order? All right.
This is weird.
All right. History, definitely.
History, okay. Best video game of all time?
Halo 3.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars when I was 6. Star Trek when I was 26.
Correct answer. Place you never want to visit?
I don't know.
Correct.
Hold on. I feel like now I'm committed.
Antarctica.
Baghdad.
Okay. What is your spirit animal?
The dude off of Big Lebowski.
Okay.
I can't stop with that.
Not the dude?
Some kind of bird of prey, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
So an eagle.
Yeah, or a red-tailed hawk.
Okay, red talk.
Yeah.
What is the square root of 225?
25.
5 times the square root of 5 or something like that. I don't know.
Correct, 15. Fall or spring?
Spring.
Crossbow, recurve, or compound bow?
Recurve, like a real man.
I knew you were going to say that. Mexican food or Chinese food?
Chinese by just a little bit.
By a piece. Packets or logs?
Packets.
All right.
You shouldn't have answered that.
You're supposed to answer the last one was a layup.
Oh, man.
All right, guys. Well, I feel like I got to know you guys a little bit better, although I predicted some of those answers from you.
Okay.
I bet you did not guess rhino.
I would have never guessed. It would have taken multiple lifetimes to guess rhino. That's amazing.
I have no idea why I picked that.
All right, so that was some fun, guys. I want to get us loosened up for today. But now I want to ask you guys another question before we get into the news for this week. I want to ask you guys, there's a lot that's going on right now in the cybersecurity world, and there's a lot going on in our company. And I want to ask you guys, we'll go back to Jeff. What's the number one challenge you're facing from a professional standpoint right now?
I would say one of the ongoing challenges that's always there is metrics. Metrics are a very hard thing to quantify and make them meaningful and actionable. In IT in general, but definitely in cybersecurity, those numbers are always different based on organization and need, and it's not always the easiest thing to quantify. And we have customers in every industry, and trying to figure out what's meaningful to them can be a challenge.
Sure, probably a similar challenge for other people that are security service providers as well.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree. We have devoted hours and hours and hours of conversation to this exact topic, and it's like trying to hit a moving target. Everybody in the SOC has a slightly different idea of what it should look like. Everybody that's a customer, and rightfully so, has a slightly different idea of what it should be. And to Jeff's point, all businesses are different. No, one size does not fit all. So you wind up with this problem where just trying to come up with a quarterly report, for example, what does that look like? What is useful to the customer? Who needs what? How do you compare and contrast between different businesses and give them a actionable, useful piece of information? It's incredibly difficult.
As an example, we have customers with various different levels of security posture, and while they're always improving, you'll have some customers who, hey, I want from a high level metrics around risk and managing risk, but then you may have another customer who, to their board, they're giving number of firewall blocks, number of blocked emails. So the knowledge level, the security posture level, and the desire from upper management board is different in every organization.
Right. And I think too, for me personally, it's figuring out how to, not to be too infomercially for what we do, but I know for me, it's trying to take what we do and digest it and put it out there as an elevator pitch, as a one-liner, And I think for probably a lot of companies out there, not even in cybersecurity, I would say just in general, when you do services, professional services, right? I know this when I was a consultant in marketing, being able to explain what you're doing for them in one sentence or in a short visual way of here's what we did for you. Because sometimes it doesn't always translate onto the bottom line, but the ROI is not always there or the sales haven't always gone up. And so being able to demonstrate the value through metrics is a challenge. Even internally, when you look at your own organization, trying to figure out, hey, we got X amount of new visits to the website. Well, how did that translate? Where's that from? Does it mean we're growing? Does it mean we're hacked? What does it mean? So I think that's definitely a hard thing to kind of figure out, especially as you get larger, more enterprise.
Yeah, and even if you can produce the metrics, then you get into this issue of expectations. So you have all these great metrics about hours and maybe number of investigations, cases done. what if it didn't amount to anything? What if nothing was found? What if the environment was completely clean as a whistle, their security posture is outstanding, but you still scan their environment 2 million times? What does that mean to the person who is paying for the service? What does it mean to the provider? If everyone has done their job and nothing happened, was the service worth it? It's an incredibly difficult question to try to answer for both providers and customers.
Let me ask you a question real quick. You think about physical security, right? If we're a commercial presence, a commercial business, or, like a mall or something like that. You got security guards that are patrolling at night, right? That's a visual deterrent. Same thing with a Ring doorbell. We really don't have that with cyber, do we? I mean, other than maybe an SSL, or is there a visual deterrent with cyber?
Yeah, I think that kind of speaks to the heart of the issue, because with the physical security measures, you can see that it's in place. You can have evidence that it worked by the fact that no one got inside whatever you're looking at. But in cyber, it's much more ethereal. It's not always clear. Where are the boundaries? Complete failure on the outside may look just like complete security if you walk into a server room. So there's this whole intangible component to cybersecurity that I think makes that metrics discussion much, much more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, as you're trying to make quantitative and qualitative metrics, a lot of factors come in play, and you may have, like you said, a physical security where it's something tangible, but from an MDR perspective, we're very intangible, right? From a viewing standpoint, right? We're off to the side. We're looking at things that have already occurred, and we're looking for threats in that environment. So from a metrics standpoint, we can give you metrics around stats of the work performed, the operational side. We can give metrics around the actual real threats. Some customers are very compliance driven, so it's more about compliance. So, as Dave said, it's probably the most difficult thing we deal with, because there's not a one size fits all.
For sure. So Dave, so metrics is the big thing for both of you guys right now.
Metrics, even when I started as an analyst, it was not always the detection of things. You can always find better ways to detect that. It's constantly evolving and improving as time goes on. But even as a junior analyst, I realized that metrics and trying to explain to people, what are you paying for? What is the value? That is the hardest thing. Yes. Definitely. In my opinion.
And that's on the front end and the back end, right? That's how do you quantify that on the front end to prospects, and how do you quantify that on the back end to people that you're providing service to? Right. So it's really from both sides.
What am I paying for? What's my return on investment? That's what everybody wants to know at the executive level.
Yeah.
And it's tough, right? We're working on it. Well, cool. All right, guys. So that's kind of covers the getting to know you. We went into depth there. So let's cover the news of the week. Headline number 1, BlueKeep Remote Desktop Exploits are coming. Patch now. This is from bleepingcomputer.com. It's a couple days old now. We're recording on May 23rd. Let me read the quote here. Security researchers have created exploits for the remote code execution vulnerability in Microsoft's RDP services, tracked as CVE-2019-0708 and dubbed BlueKeep, and hackers may not be far behind. So Jeff, you brought this to my attention this week. Color this in for me a little bit.
Sure, yeah. I mean, this is one of the newest threats that our threat intel team is kind of going through and creating content around. I'll let Dave kind of talk to some of that. But, again, there's so many, 0 days and exploits out there. It's hard to keep up with them, out of all honesty. There's just so many. But, remote desktop is something that's just inherently on every Windows machine. And, this could be a major issue for people if not patched.
Yeah, it goes without saying, you never want to expose anything with remote desktop access to the outside. That would be probably one of the easiest ways to attack someone. We have content in place that looks for just generic remote desktop traffic and other forms of remote access coming in and going out. And so in some ways we were prepared to see something like this. We did actually have to create a parser to find this in packets. That's, for us, has been one of the easiest ways to do it. So thankfully, I believe it was the Internet Storm Center that made available some PCAP, and we were able to put that into our lab environment. And then we just wrote a packet parser around that. So it was a good learning experience.
But yeah, these kinds of RDP exploits are just going to keep continuing to be the flavor of the month. If people are able to get them and package them with other types of malware campaigns, it's easy to attack. And this one actually makes use of different channels within RDP. So there are some channels used for certain things. Basically, usually there are 3 different channels. This creates a 4th channel, and it should only be bound to certain things, but it will actually bind it to this. RDP should only be bound to certain channels, but this creates a 4th one and binds something to it, which creates an issue and then is a way to escalate from there.
And the article says, exploits are coming patched now, but honestly, our guys wrote an exploit pretty quickly. So, I think these are going to be coming very prevalent very quickly. I mean, remote desktop if you got remote desktop into a machine, you got access to a lot more stuff.
Is it a necessary evil though? Is RDP a necessary evil? Do we have to have it in business?
Yeah, it's often used for setting up all kinds of different services. For example, if a new server comes online and there's an admin working on it, then they're probably going to use some kind of remote desktop or remote access tool. And then the most common scenario we see is that system is successfully stood up and then people forget to turn off those services, and then they're left on. They're discovered 6 months later and something catastrophic happens because that thing is allowing RDP connections outbound or inbound or whatever the case may be.
No, I've always used them from my personal standpoint to, work remote or access my server and check things. That's always been my personal thing, and it's a necessary evil. I've heard stories of. I actually talked to a guy once that he was on his computer and he had TeamViewer installed, and he was doing something else and he saw somebody hack through his TeamViewer and start using his Amazon account to send stuff, and he couldn't do anything about it. He couldn't stop it. So with these kind of RDP exploits, are we seeing stuff like that, or is that too surface level?
Yeah, there's a couple different ways you can exploit it. So in particular, this one, you could go to a couple different routes. You could access whatever's on that system. You could potentially pivot elsewhere if that system has accessibility to other hosts on the network. And a lot of times we're seeing RDP used as a method to deliver ransomware. And initially that was one of the main reasons that we wrote a lot of content around RDP, because it's a good delivery method. You can very easily drag and drop things and potentially kick off a large scale campaign that way with relative ease. But this is a pretty modular exploit. I would expect to see this in a lot of different new malware campaigns, and it's something that you can just scan for and run. It's very low skill.
I got a funny story around the TeamViewer thing. So, when I first started at Data Shield, one night in the SOC, I was working pretty late, and swing shift was in. We were sitting there, and all of a sudden the phone rings, and normally it comes in on the customer channel, but it was on the regular side of the telecom system. So we pick up the phone, and it's literally a scammer trying to get us to tell us that our warranty was expired and he needed to log into our PC. So we decided to launch our malware environment and actually talk to the guy on the phone, play complete stupid, and we wasted like an hour of our time and this guy's time to get him to TeamViewer into our malware machine. And then he proceeded, once he figured out what we were doing, to curse us out, and we reported him to TeamViewer and they shut him down. But it was pretty fun.
So you were getting the hacker back.
Yeah.
You're blue team, true blue team stuff. Yep. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, guys, anything else to add on the BlueKeep stuff?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Microsoft did release a patch for this, and it's very easy to Google. Just look up BlueKeep Microsoft patch. You'll find it right away. Also, block RDP port 3389 inbound and outbound at all costs.
Yeah.
Awesome. There's your hot tip for the week,
Hot
straight
tip.
from Dave Norland. All right, perfect. All right, headline number 2. I need to quit saying perfect. I say perfect way too much. It wasn't perfect.
Aww.
It was satisfactory.
It makes me think of was it the Mortal Kombat?
Perfect. Flawless. All right, headline number 2.
If you started saying flawless over every one of these,
I just started saying flawless instead. That's the new thing, flawless. Headline number 2. Equifax just became the first company to have its Outlook downgraded for a cyber attack. So this is from CNBC, but for those who haven't heard about this, Equifax had quite a major breach. This is back in 2017 was the first time, right, guys?
Yeah. Yep.
Let me actually read this quote here. So Moody's, who's a kind of a evaluations analytics firm, has just slashed its rating outlook on Equifax, the first time cybersecurity issues have been cited as the reason for a downgrade. Moody's lowered Equifax outlook from stable to negative on Wednesday as the credit monitoring company continues to suffer from the massive 2017 breach of consumer data.
We talked about this 2 or 3 podcasts ago, but this is around the doing the right thing and presenting yourself in the cybersecurity space as notification and you got to fall on your sword sometimes and do what's right and fix the problems going forward. And they started off on a bad foot.
Yeah. And this goes back to the hard thing that we always talk about is, I know from like a perspective when we talk to prospects out there that are not already using a security service provider, they're trying to figure out ROI, return on investment. If they invest in a team that's keeping eyes on glass for them 24/7, where do they get their money back in this? And this is one of the key things is when you get breached, like these big guys like Equifax, and we've seen Sony breach, it's a huge brand hit. And now it's affecting them on Wall Street as well. So.
Yeah, I think the amazing thing to me is that there doesn't seem to be a lot of accountability. I just think it's time for some kind of GDPR-like equivalent in the US. I think GDPR is a good piece of legislation in a lot of ways. It's going down the right path as far as keeping control of user data within the user's hands. And the whole point of Equifax is to keep your data so other companies can reference it, right? That's the whole point.
Yeah.
So how is it that without your consent or desire to have your information released, that you're now somehow part of this breach? It's just kind of mind-boggling to me.
Well, what's weird to me about the credit bureaus or Equifax and these guys is that, when you sign up for a social media account or a Google account or anything, there's a EULA. No one reads it. Everyone just clicks. I just got a new iPhone. I just clicked send to my, email, never read it. I'm sure I probably should. Mm-hmm. But most people don't read the EULAs. Probably some people who work here do. But in general, most people don't. But these other guys, there's no EULA. I didn't sign up to be an Equifax, but my credit score is on there and my information's on there.
Yeah, that's the amazing thing to me is I didn't have a choice to say, no, Equifax, don't have my data. But now, presumably, I've been breached and all that data is out there. And I had zero control from start to finish. So how is that possible? How is there no protection in 2019? I don't know. It's kind of amazing to me.
Well, it's good for us from a business perspective because the more this starts to be the standard, the more people are going to need our services. I guess that's the fun part for us.
Yeah, it's job security in a sad way, I suppose.
Yeah, double-edged sword. Like I tell some customers this sometimes, especially prospect. It's when a breach or a tier 1 happens, our SOC guys get very giddy and happy, but not in a way that they're happy that the customer's breach. It's an exciting thing for them to do.
Yeah.
But it always makes you feel slightly bad.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate circumstance. Ideally, it's something that we would hope no one has to go through. I've been on the response side of many breaches, and it's never fun for anybody involved. It's long hours. It's a terrible time. People are angry and upset, and yeah, so it's nothing that anyone wants to go through. But unfortunately, it's the business we're in arises out of that. It's a protection business, so there will always be a need for it.
Yep. So lesson learned to cap this off. Guys, don't be like Equifax, be like bodybuilding.com. If you get breached, put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
And remedy it for the future, right?
Disclosure is an important thing. Have a plan. Don't make your plan be, it just happened 5 minutes ago. What do we do now?
You guys never thought I would have compared Equifax to bodybuilding.com, did you?
No.
I just did.
Interesting reference.
I just did. I compared them.
I'm actually pretty sure we did that on the other podcast.
We did. I think we're being redundant, but it's a through line. It's an episodic adventure here at the Hash Time Show.
That or we're just going to repeat ourselves over and over.
Try not to do that. All right, headline number 3 for the week. WannaCry-Infested Laptop starts at $1.13 million in art auction. This is from threatpost.com. Let me read the quote here. It's a little bit long, but this will give us some background on this. Malware as high art, ? Stranger things have happened, but a Windows laptop infested with 6 high-profile pieces of malware, think WannaCry and Black Energy, is nonetheless looking to fetch more than $1 million in public art auction bids. A project called The Persistence of Chaos, mounted by artist Guo Dong, with help from the Deep Instinct security firm, consists of an old Samsung Blue netbook from 2008 running Windows XP SP3. It features 6 pieces of malware that together are responsible for at least $95 billion in financial damages.
All I gotta say is here at Data Shield, we have a gateway laptop running SQL Slammer and Melissa, and we'll sell it for $500,000.
Yeah. I mean, the sky's the limit, right? Because if we just connected this to other laptops that were also vulnerable and then it infected those, it's just going to be multiplying by however many laptops we infect the value of the art, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I feel about this other than, wow.
It's great. So this popped up. You said to me, hey, we need to talk about the dumbest thing every week in cybersecurity.
Yeah,
That's going to be and this has to be the leader for that segment.
I think this is the stupidest thing in cybersecurity this week.
Yes. We joked about having a segment called Stupid Things in Cybersecurity. This would fall in.
This would fall into that one. I mean, it's...
I think I'm going to go home and have my kid paint with a paintbrush like a ransomware screen and try to sell it.
Yeah. Let's get on the cutting edge of modern art.
This is modern art. This is like one of those LA, art museums where they have a plastic box in the middle of a white room and it's art,
Oh, yeah.
Is that it's like one of these things, right?
That's my guess.
Yeah. It's modern art in a nutshell.
I don't even know about it. So do you guys know about these? Like, what is the WannaCry? Catch me up from 08. Like, was that some crazy famous malware attack?
It wasn't even from 08. It was from 2017. It exploited a big Microsoft Windows vulnerability. And yeah, it was probably one of the largest cyber attacks, one of the most famous ones. There were memes of it. And it just spread worldwide within the span of a couple of days. So.
Yeah, I mean, they've got some pretty iconic, destructive pieces on here. I still think there's a couple big ones they're missing, but it is pretty ridiculous.
What happens if the battery goes dead?
It's only worth one point.
What do we do?
1.05.
Yeah.
Is it come with the charging? That's the thing. Can you use the laptop?
Does the battery on the laptop charge for more than 5 minutes?
All right.
That's a good point. Probably has to be plugged in at all times.
Yeah. And can I surf the web from this?
I don't think so.
Can I check Twitter?
You guys ever use an old computer, like you're pulling out of a closet that's running like XP, and you realize how long we used to wait, and then think about how our patience has dwindled since 1995 when you could use a Windows 95 computer. Yeah. And just to get an image would take 30 seconds. One of those things.
Yeah. It's wow. That's all I can say. This is just ridiculous.
It's just sad.
All right, guys. That's probably the end of the news for this week. I wanted to jump into segment number 3, and we were going to talk a little bit about telling some stories about the cyber world, but I wanted to pivot this week a little bit. We were talking earlier about the biggest challenges for a SOC in 2019, and you guys were talking about metrics is what you guys are facing right now. What else do we have to add on that? What can we talk about the threat landscape piece? Let's chat for a second about if you're a security operations center in 2019, what are the things you have to put in place to be more effective?
I think you need to automate as much as possible. Something that we've put a lot of renewed focus on in the past couple of years is how can we reduce the amount of time an analyst has to look at something in order to be and still be effective. We've taken some pretty drastic approaches, going so far as even to templatize certain parts of a write-up, if not the whole write-up. Anything that can save an analyst 5 or 6 minutes, it all adds up. And I think the speed of response, it's always a challenge, especially in a multi-tenant environment. But automation and just trying to close that time gap is also very challenging, and still deliver, again, a high-quality product that is actionable when the customer receives it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely number one. But the other interesting part that we challenge to try to make more effective is just there are so many threats out there. The breadth and depth of these threats are all over the place. So building an effective threat intelligence plan and doing it the right way is a very tricky and very what's the right word for it? Cumbersome technique. So trying to put the right effort into that has been a big focus of ours over especially the last year and a half of trying to drive value and detections in this landscape that's just vastly changing every day without overburdening people.
Is that about having the right people in place?
It's really a combination, right? The right people, the right technology, the right processes, and finding the blend of all of those. One piece of those alone won't make the solution.
Got it. So if you guys were to tear, let's play hypothetical for a second. If you guys were in an alternate reality, okay, it's just you two guys, and I'm there too for some reason.
It sounds really boring.
And it's just you guys. None of this.
How did this happen?
None of this exists now. Be totally honest with me. I'll edit this out if we don't like how it comes out. I'm not going to edit it for people at home. If you had to build a SOC from scratch, knowing what you know now in 2019, what would be the first couple of things you would put in place?
I would just clone Dave a whole bunch.
Clone Dave Norland, our own Dave Norland, host of the Hashtime Show.
I'm afraid of that.
So
I don't know what I would do.
If you were cloned, or what do you
if
do?
I were cloned, I don't know what other versions of me would do. Would they do what I would do?
Have you ever seen the movie Multiplicity?
No.
Is that what's his name?
With Michael Keaton?
Oh, Michael Keaton.
Yeah, where he starts by cloning himself, and it's like it goes to a really macho guy, and then he clones himself again. It's kind of like a little more scared guy, and then he clones himself again, and the guy literally becomes like mentally handicapped. And it's like the more he clones it, the worse off it gets. So
I don't know, because I feel like
schizophrenia. It doesn't sound like cloning.
yeah, that's exactly the scenario, right?
I feel like I would clone myself, and then me being an independent-minded person would look at myself and be like, "Don't tell me what to do."
Yeah, so you're kind of defeating the purpose.
I'm kind of defeating the purpose because I just created 100 other problems for myself to solve. I'm having to solve problems of myself with myself.
Then you're fighting yourself.
I'm fighting myself.
Who would win if
It's
you
an
fight
existential crisis.
yourself? Yeah. I guess in theory you'd be a permanent stalemate if you fight yourself, right?
What would happen if I fired myself?
If you fired
Just
yourself,
disappear.
But I don't know. Would I walk myself out?
I think you would walk yourself out. You'd be an alternate. You would become an alternate Dave. You might be like go work in a Burger King there or McDonald's. We would see you 6 months from now. The other version of you with the beard and maybe dreadlocks or something. Or
Then I feel sorry for myself.
You hire yourself back.
And then if I felt sorry for myself, the version of me working at McDonald's would be like, "Hey, don't feel so sorry for yourself."
This is getting too weird for me.
I think we beat that horse, the cloning horse. Dead.
We can take it further.
We can take it further.
Nah, I'm kidding. All right, building a SOC. I would start with the most basic possible thing. So when we built a threat intel team here at Data Shield a little while ago, my first mandate to the people under me was start with the most basic possible types of activity and master it. So we started with port scanning. We started with brute force logins. We started with just the things that everyone would turn around and say, "Why are you looking at this? It's pointless." Well, you know what? Those are the kind of things that you see in real world scenarios. You see something that contacts 100 other systems laterally, and that's a part of the attack. It may not be the very beginning of the attack. It may not be the hot content that detects the initial exploit that happens, but it's still seconds after it took place. It's still moments after the infection or almost right as it took place. So we started with the anomalies.
I equate that to like a doctor, right?
Okay.
So you don't go to the doctor because you know exactly what you have. You go because you have symptoms, right? And
Yes.
so I'd say two things. One is people think they're going to solve the infection. And two is people think they're just going to go buy some super expensive threat intel feed and they've got the answer, right?
It's a sim tool, right?
Yeah, so it's more about focusing on those symptoms and then working out from that.
Identify the anomalies, and that is a hard, steep hill to climb. So a lot of times that can only be done with complex correlation rules. But once you figure that stuff out, that's when you start to learn more about customer environments. You start to see, oh, well, this print server seems to be blasting out, talking to everybody at the same time. Well, that's normal. I'll whitelist it. And as you start to pick off these things that could be whitelisted, then you start to get a better picture of what's normal in an environment. So it will become impossible for a small or mid-sized security company to tackle every single threat that comes down the pipe unless they have threat intel feeds. And that's kind of the next step. That's where everybody should want to get and automate that. And that's where we've gone, and we're happy about having gotten there. But if you're just starting out, even at a small company, it doesn't even matter if you're in security, if you're just an IT person. Focus on the basics. Focus on anomalies
and detecting them the best you can, and the other stuff will start to fall into place.
Right. As an example, you can go buy the best security devices in the world. You can buy, 6 spam filters and you put them all in a row. But if your user still goes to things and clicks things and does these actions without thinking, all you do is spend a bunch of money, right? So it's the focus on the basics. That kind of goes in cybersecurity in general. It's not just detection. It's everything to do with your security postures. Focus on the basics. Start small. Work your way up. As you build these small foundation, you'll know a better route of where to go with all the upper level things. If you go big, the old saying, go big, go home, that doesn't work. That doesn't get you the results.
Fake it till you make it. I think that's a BS term a lot of times. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So the recap, so you get like 4 or 5 guys like Dave. Is it 4 or 5 or 3 or 10? What's the right starting point?
I'm
5
not
guys?
sure. It depends on where the cloning degrades.
Okay. So you get 4.
What's the Dave return on investment?
The DOI.
What's the bell curve? What's my bell curve?
So you get some sharp guys like Dave who are driven, and then you have them focus on the fundamentals, and you build out from there.
Focus on anomalies. If you master anomalies, they're inherently harder than just writing a signature for something that is going to be the same every time. Focus on stuff that is unusual. Bite the bullet, do the hard stuff, and then once you've done that, you'll know enough to do other things easier. So,
When do you get the ping pong table? Is that the next step?
as soon as possible.
It's an ASAP.
Probably day one.
Yeah, day one. Because you're
Day
going to be
one.
stressed. You need to hit something hard.
All right, guys.
What if I played myself in ping pong?
4 of you, 2v2.
What if I did doubles against myself?
In theory, it would be a stalemate. Again, like fighting yourself. In theory. Or would it?
It'd be like a feedback loop.
And
with
if
a ball.
one actually happened to score on the other, what would happen? Like, would it just crumble?
Well,
Just die.
Would
Like
Dave's
goes
just,
offline?
Yeah, they just fall down dead?
so what I think would happen, I'm going to get scientific here.
Okay.
Bear with me. I would spike the ball to one side. But because I do this wind-up thing as other people are hitting it, I would be ready on the other side. So I would then spike it back to myself. But because I saw myself do it, I would also be winding up after the first time. So it would just be this spiking back and forth. And the other 2 Daves on the diagonal side would never get to play because it'd just be this feedback loop of the ball going back and forth super fast because we'd always be ready for it. I would always be ready for it. I'm sorry.
Would it get exponentially harder and more furious as it went?
Just, harder, faster the whole time.
What if a natural phenomena happened and like wind blew the ball and then you missed?
I'd account for it.
This has been more hot cloning talk on the Hash Time Show.
Clone talk.
Well, cool, guys. Well, I think we covered everything. I got to know you guys better. We talked about what's challenging you guys professionally, and me a little bit too. I'm very challenged. And then we talked about the news, and then we got into how to basically build a SOC from scratch. I think we covered a lot this week.
Yeah.
You guys feel good?
I feel good.
Great.
Awesome. All right, guys, quick shameless plug for Data Shield. We are going to be at the Rocky Mountain Information Security Conference June 4th and 5th and 6th. I'll be out there. I'm Chris. Come say hi. Ben Johnson and Kurt Rogers will be out there as well.
I'll try to get one of myself out there too.
Let's get you cloned out there, Dave. We need someone watching the SOC and someone at the conference. But besides that, guys, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
Don't clone yourself.
Thank you for listening to the Hash Time Show. Check us out online at hashtimeshow.com.